Hi everyone! COVID-19 and the restrictions associated with it present some truly unique challenges for us as high school teachers. One of the most important skills that we can teach our students are problem-solving skills. But these skills are very difficult to teach virtually. It is very easy at this point to do a lecture online. It is also fairly easy to set an independent assignments that students can do on their own. However, most students need more support than that. They need the missing link in between lecture and independent assignment. And that link is guided practice. When we have our students in school, we can walk around the classroom and see how the students are doing during guided practice. We can see where students are getting stuck. We can help them as needed. We can help students who are making errors. We can offer suggestions to students who are stuck. This ability we no longer have with virtual instruction. Today, I'm going to show you how to use Peardeck to do guided practice online in virtual instruction in a meaningful way that will help us get that missing link back and teach those problem-solving skills better to our students. In my presentation, I'm going to show you exactly what I see as a teacher when I do a Peardeck guided practice in class with my students. I will also show you what students see. Then I'm going to show you some useful tricks for grading and giving students participation grades. And finally, I'm going to show you how to set up your Peardeck and your Google Slides in such a way that you can do the guided practice yourself. So first, let's go ahead and see what do teachers see and what do students see when they do Peardeck practice. So I have set up this little Peardeck where I will be showing a problem and I will be asking students to do the guided practice. Now I'm going to have only one student myself this time around. But I have done this with classes of 25 to 30 students and I have found that this works fairly well. So if you have never used Peardeck before, you will notice that students have an option of joining your Peardeck either using the code, where they will have to go to the site joinpd.com, or they can join via a link. So if you click over here, you're going to get a link, and this is what I usually do. I copy the link and I drop it into the chat box of Microsoft Teams, which is the tool that my school district uses, but I'm sure it will work just as well with Zoom or any other video conferencing platform. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this link in here, and I'm going to join in my own Peardeck as a student so that we can see what students can see as well as what the teachers see. So it has this little how you're feeling today, and then it loads the presentation. So this is the title page that students will see once they log in. This is the title page that I'm projecting right now underneath this Join PD code, right? Join the Peardeck code. Now, there is one crucial thing that we need to do before we move on, and we need to open up the teacher dashboard. This is going to be very important because this is the tool that will give us the opportunity to see exactly what the students are doing in the Peardeck. So right now it's telling me that I'm projecting the code. It's going to show me exactly where I am in the presentation. And if you have a dual monitor, you can keep it on one side of the screen and your browser on the other side. If you don't, you can just switch back and forth. That also works. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation. So obviously, before we do any guided practice, I need to go ahead and explain what it is we're doing. This is a slide from one of the Peardecks that I've used in my class. And since I teach electronics, we're using Ohm's law. But it would work just as well for just about any subject where you have to do guided practice. So first, I'm of course showing my students how to do this, and I have the steps laid out, and I'm telling them they have to determine the formula, they have to convert everything that is given to them that is not in engineering notation into engineering notation. They plug in the numbers, and then they convert the final answer. Now this is what the students see. So the students see exactly the same thing that I see. They see exactly the same screen, and it's nice and clear and large on their screen, because with some video conferencing tools, the resolution is still a lot smaller than when you show it through a Peardeck like this. So this is my example, and the next step is, of course, the guided practice. So you will notice that I have set up this slide almost exactly like I had my previous slide, except it doesn't have the solution. And this is, of course, why it's guided practice. I'm telling them what all the steps are. I'm giving them a little formula tool that doesn't exactly give them the formula, but they can use it to determine which one they need, and so on. But after this is where the monitoring part comes in, because I need to be able to see if my students actually understand what they're doing and if they're doing it exactly the way I want it to. So this is what I see, but this is what students see. And what they have is a slide on which they can draw and type. So they can use their finger or their stylus and draw on their screen if they have a touch screen. They can also type. So I'm going to go ahead and type. So I'm going to put in the formula, and you can enlarge the text or make it smaller. It's very easy. So my formula is I equals V over R. And this is where the teacher dashboard comes into play, because this is the student view. When I look in the teacher view, I don't see any of this. But when I open up my teacher dashboard, I can see every single slide that the student is working on with their name on it. Not only do I see those slides, I can send my students messages, private messages in real time about what they type in their slide. So for example, here's me giving feedback. So I'm going to put down, nice job on the formula. And then I send the feedback. Now when the student looks at their slide, they get a little pop-up over here where it says, you have new feedback. So for example, if they made an error, I can send them a private message and I can tell them what they're doing wrong. This is extremely useful. If I'm doing a simultaneous video conference, I can of course just plain say that they need to fix their formula. I usually don't go, if I'm going over a video conference and there are a whole bunch of other people listening, I usually don't necessarily say what the mistake is. I would just say, well, so-and-so needs to pay more attention to their formula or more attention to their conversion, or there is something slightly wrong with your conversion. Another extremely useful part of this is after you have given your students sufficient time to start on their problem, we can show them other people's solutions. And those solutions are anonymous. So what Peardeck does, over here there is a Show Responses button. It shows the responses from every single slide from every single student that have joined the Peardeck. Right now I have only one student, so I have only one slide. This is my student slide over here. You can see it. But when you have 20 to 25 to 30 students, you will see every single slide, but it does not have their name attached to it. So you can go over somebody's slide that has an error that is a common error and that several people have made that particular error. And you can go over that error without singling out the person who made it and explain them how to do this. You can also, if you have a couple of students who have done the correct solution, once again show everyone the correct solution without singling out that particular person. Peardeck also offers us some very useful features that make it very easy to give our student participation grades, especially quantifiable participation grades that are not subjective to what we think has happened, and we have actual proof of what actually did happen. Once again, we will be using the student dashboard. Because you can see everything on the student dashboard, you can give the students participation grade based on how well they did and based on how much effort they put into it. But if we don't want to do the grading during the class because, we're involved into actually teaching the class and helping students, we can always do it later. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to finish my presentation and I'm going to show you some tricks that we can do after the presentation that will help us with grading. So when I hit End Presentation, it will ask me to name the session. This is important. So I'm going to call it Using Peardeck. Guided practice. And over here, it has an item called Publish Student Takeaways. If I click that button, it will email every single student all the slides in the presentation with interactive slides and everything that they wrote on the slides themselves. So it will literally send them the class notes, which I usually click that button and it goes into their inbox if they signed up for it with a student email. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Save Session. And now I'm going to go into the Peardeck site itself. When I go into the Peardeck site, I'm going to go into Teacher Login. It will have every single session that I have done in my class. So over here on the top, it's a tiny button over here, but I click Session and it will show me every single session that I have done. So over here it says Using Peardeck for Guided Practice. And I can relaunch my teacher dashboard, and all the student answers that were there, they are still available for me to grade. So you can see that on the interactive slides where there was an option of students drawing, it still has my input and it still has my name on it. So I can still find all that information. It's not gone. Another way to get grades is to go ahead and click over here. It will give you all these options, and one of them is Export to Spreadsheet. When you click Export to Spreadsheet, it will show you every single student who was in the Peardeck. And it will show you if they participated. Now, it will not give you an option of looking at what they drew on their slides. It will simply say drawing. However, if this is a participation grade where it's whether or not they just did it instead of how well they did it, that would be a good option. Also, there are some other ways of other types of slides that you can use in the Peardeck where this might come very useful. So right now it shows the students that were logged in and working on this, their student email or teacher email in my case, and that on the slide 1, which is the first interactive slide that we had, this person did do a drawing. Now that I have shown you how Peardeck guided practice looks for both students and teachers, as well as some tips and tricks for grading, let's actually work on learning how to set it up. So what I have in front of me is a Google slide. And this is a Google slide of me doing an example problem. In your regular presentations, you will of course have slides like that where you are going through an example. And when you're doing an example, of course you do it in a way that you want your students to do, right? You're trying to get them to emulate you. So to get our guided practice, all we have to do is duplicate the slide, edit out a few things, and we're ready to go. All right, so the first thing I need to do is I need to duplicate my slide. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And please notice that I'm in Google Slides. You can do Peardeck with PowerPoint, but Google Slides is very integrated with Peardeck and it offers you more functionality. All right, so we've got my copy. And now I'm going to go ahead and delete a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to delete all of my little text boxes over here that I had so that I can have a nice and clean slide. The only thing that I have that I need to change is my initial conditions, right? Because I want to do a different problem. Now, in this particular case, and what I usually do for my slides is I have my initial conditions written down as a picture because very often it is a diagram of some sort. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and replace this image and I'm going to upload something else from my computer. So there we go. So now I have my problem all set up. And I'm ready to go. That's it. So the only thing I need to do now is I need to add the Peardeck. The Peardeck is in my add-ons, and if you have used Peardeck before, it will be in your add-ons as well. But if it is not, you need to get into Get Add-ons for Google Slides, and you will find Peardeck over there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Peardeck, and it pops up on my left side. And I want to make this slide interactive, and there are all sorts of options. I want this slide to be a slide that they can draw on. And this is really it. I've added the interactive questions. You can see over here on the bottom that it says this is a Peardeck drawing slide. And now it's going to work perfectly. So if I were to test this out, I could go ahead and hit Start Lesson. And it will start up my Peardeck. It will ask you if you want a student-paced activity or instructor-paced activity. Well, I'm always going for instructor-paced, especially for something like guided practice. So I'm going to go ahead and test out if this is working. join my own Peardeck. And you can see that this slide that I wanted to start with is in fact an interactive slide. So everything works the way I want it to. So hopefully this tool will help you do a more meaningful guided practice, or will solve some kind of problems with guided practice that you had in your class. Thank you for watching.